I attempted a video earlier, and I'm going to attempt it one more time to try to be a little more concise. It's always the goal. But in my earlier video, I think what I was trying to convey was that although the current, what do you call it, commander-in-chief, the president of the corporation, as we are learning, there's things that he's doing that an Indian can mistakenly think is just for them, you know? And I want to remind people that, we shouldn't be too quick to grab at the free giveaway. And I want to suggest that Indians be a lot more discerning, because the beast that we're dealing with, it has experience in making things seem what they are not. So the latest thing was, and I just fresh off of an argument with a commenter under one of my videos, because the argument is, who are the slaves in America that Trump is talking about the U.S. citizenship was created for? Now, I certainly thought that we all knew who they were, but because some of our skin folk, I have to say, because they have made up their mind that a president for the corporation and the immigrants, the legal immigrants, allegedly legal, we're going to talk a little bit about why I just said that. But a lot of our people, once again, think, we do it every time, guys, when they create an affirmative action, every time we think it's for us. And I see our people are they dedicated to grabbing whatever this corporation throws at them, and it's for me, right? And I hate to do it to you, Indians. You should know by now. I'm not that much of a senior, but even I can smell a rat. Whereas people my age and older, apparently, you're still falling for the okie doke. The young people get a pass, I guess, even though a lot of them are light years ahead of the old fogies. We have to stop assuming that what the corporation does is something that's going to be, at the very least, for us only. I think we can agree that everything the corporation does, it ends up benefiting other people when they say it's for us initially, like the 14th Amendment citizenship. As we see, that went out to everybody, although Trump has told us that it was only meant for descendants of slaves from Africa. Now, some people they think that if the commander in the corporation's commander-in-chief, if he didn't spell out that it's for quote-unquote black people, that means it could be for somebody else. Really? You're going to delude yourself that much? And this is just to anybody, not just someone I had an exchange with. Clearly, there's other people out there who had some idea that Trump was going to do something for an American Indian? Wait. Did they even admit what they did to American Indians? See, that's where Heru steps in, whether he's wanted or not. Because what I think was able to put into words was the only way you know for sure that something is being done specifically for you, and it won't be. Not with this corporation. First, they would have to admit what they did, because that would be a form of confession. And if you confess what you did wrong, that means you're willing to make it right. But if you don't confess what you did wrong, that means you're still at your old tactics. And this is what a lot of our American Indians do. It's because you're looking for a savior. That's why I wish that you could let the religion go quicker. It'll have you thinking, oh, the Bible said something about a Trump. I guess he's the one that's going to save us. He's not. I spoke on it in another video. What the corporation is doing is saving itself. If it's saving itself, that means it intends to be here. Okay? If it were going to do something for Indians, it would be an exit plan. It would be, this is what we did wrong. We paper genocided American Indians into so-called Negroes, coloreds, and blacks, and we are admitting that we did that, and from now on, we're going to take the initiative. Yeah. And we no longer recognize anything as black, Negro, colored, or even African American. In fact, we're going to do what one of the corporation's presidents did when he took the word, he took a word out of the, off the record, right? Notice when the corporation does it, it's to your detriment. It's removing the breadcrumbs, right? What I'm trying to say is, how you know the corporation is doing something for Indians is when they admit what they did to Indians. If they're not admitting that openly, the circus is still in town, y'all. The circus is still in town, y'all. We have to stop reaching. Stop being like the corporation and grab it. Stop it. You sit and you listen. You don't start praising a president of a corporation. You got to understand what the corporation is here for. You got to understand how the corporation got here. Which leads to another point I was hoping to make. I'm hearing Indians say that we agreed to something with this corporation. And for the longest time, I was like, I don't think so, but let's hear it. And what I'm hearing so far, it doesn't add up. And it's not going to add up. I want to explain something, and maybe it'll come off as radical. American Indians did not agree to anything that happened to them since at least 1492 or 1493. When I say this, please let it resound, please. I will try to be a little more or a little less but I have to be adamant. I have to be adamant. I would like the Indians who are willing to hear me out. I'd like for you to hear me when I say, Can we agree, and I'll tell you why we should, can we agree, can we get to a place where we agree that it is not possible for American Indians to have truly agreed to anything that has happened since at least 1492? The doctrine of discovery, please hear me, the Indians who have agreed that you'll hear me out and we'll maybe come to an agreement on this point. The doctrine of discovery, it removed the need for any Indian to approve of anything. You might have thought that you set something in motion by quote unquote agreeing to it, even allegedly making a treaty to it. You did not. You did not. How do we know this? Because of the doctrine of discovery. When colonizer came here, it was just to take. It wasn't to get any Indian, not even the Iroquois Confederacy. Why? Because the Iroquois Confederacy is a North American thing. The doctrine of discovery is a South American thing that happened in the 1400s. Iroquois Confederacy is something that happened, they're going to say it's the 1500s. So even the Iroquois Confederacy did not have to agree to the takeover. They helped to make it easier. Yes, they did. And they had an invested interest in assisting. They were a small group, y'all. They were so small that they needed 4 to 5 other linguistic groups of Indians to join into this confederacy to be a thing. What am I saying? The Iroquois couldn't have done it by themselves. They were too small. They were a break-off of Algonquins. You can tell, as I always say, just by their name. They're called Iroquois. That's an Algonquin name. They didn't have their own language. That's why they had to take on the term Iroquois. They were just Algonquins trying to create a new identity and come up against the larger group of Indians who were Algonquins. I don't know how to stress it more. We were all Algonquin speaking. So when you hear me talking about Algonquins, it's not like I'm saying, that's who I was, and y'all are no better than me, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to say is, early on, Algonquin was the only language. Now we look at how large Virginia was. I'm about to just go there and say Algonquin was the language of the whole area of the United States and possibly outside of the area of the United States. Once they got over on Chief Powhatan, they were able to claim the entire North America. As I said before, they did not deal with any specific person that significant with any of the other linguistic groups. Yeah. If Algonquins didn't matter, if Algonquins, the original language that we all were, especially in the Eastern Woodlands. Now, I know it may be a stretch to say that the entire North America was Algonquin, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the next revelation. Now that we know what area of Virginia was. And what I'm trying to get at is they had to deal with someone where they can make a claim over what was originally Virginia, which was the whole entire North America. that person was Chief Powhatan. After they did that, immediately we don't hear anything else about Algonkins. Because the way they did it, like everything they do, it is not really legitimate. The driving factor is the doctrine of discovery, even with Powhatan. They just had to get him to not... They had to soften him up. They couldn't just bring the doctrine of discovery to North American Indians like that. They couldn't do it to South American Indians either. They approached them very nicely initially at first as well. So they knew that America was theirs before they dealt with any chief, any people in America. They came here knowing that America was theirs. And that's what I want Indians to see, that you didn't have to agree to anything. You didn't have to create anything. All you had to do was be here and be moved out of the way because of the doctrine of discovery. That's how powerful the doctrine of discovery is. Now, the good news is, because colonizer has to save his ass, not yours. How do we know that they're not saving your ass as an American Indian? Is because, again, they have not confessed to what they have done. There's no public official openly saying, they have plenty access to the mass media, right? They can go on record and say all so-called black people are Indians, American Indians, because we misclassified American Indians into blacks. So from this day on, there's no such thing as a black. They're talking about United States citizenship, right? But they're not talking about those people who are misclassified in order to get that United States citizenship. All they want to say is that they were descendants of slaves. So that right there, that tells you they're still not coming clean about Indians. So what does that mean? Trump ain't doing nothing for you, American Indians. This is not anything, in other words, we shouldn't expect it, is what I'm trying to say. We're peaceful Indians. We're not advocating any kind of uprising or anything. No, not necessary. But we're trying to get American Indians to finally realize ain't nobody batting for you but you. It's the way you really want it to be. Because if someone else attempts to do this, who's to say they're going to do it right? So some of the things that American Indians need to know is, number one, stop quoting United States laws as a means to extricate yourself from this beast. Why? United States laws have, what do you call it? If it can be said it was superseded in one case, it was upheld in another case. It's all over the place. When we can't rely on their laws, y'all, and I mean that. I literally mean that. I literally, you don't need them. First of all, everything is based on the doctrine of discovery. You do much better to deal with the doctrine of discovery than you would United States laws. Why? They can go here, there, everywhere. We don't know what cases a specific law was upheld and where it was dismissed, where it was, there's all kind of arguments that can be made to take your birthright if they want your birthright, and we know they do. So we don't need to quote any of their code. Not even the international ones, especially not the international ones. Especially not the international ones. This corporation had I can't even call it an agreement, y'all. I used to call it that. They had divine right of kings to make laws for Indians, okay? But Indians didn't want that. We didn't agree to that. They had the doctrine of discovery to do everything they wanted to do and make it look like we had to agree with it. We never had to agree. So again, we don't need any of their laws because their laws are all based, when it comes to Indians, their laws are based on the doctrine of discovery. How do we know this? How do we know this? Because the three Supreme Court cases that represent the foundation of all quote-unquote Indian law, those three cases were based on the doctrine of discovery. So what does that tell you? It's the doctrine of discovery that's their go-to law, set of laws. So what does an Indian have to do? You don't go international. We don't need it. It just gets complicated. It's all over the place. The thing that brought them here was the doctrine of discovery. What we have to say is it's been repudiated. That right there takes care of all of their laws. Again, how do we know this? It's because they did not use their laws. They used the doctrine of discovery to take from Indians, and they will continue to do that until Indians stand up and realize what is giving them the quote-unquote right to do that. It's the doctrine of discovery. So we don't need to deal with their laws, codes, rules, and regulations or statutes. We need to deal with the doctrine of discovery because that is the root of the judgments that they're making. If I can say it again. In this system, the Supreme Court is said to have created the mass body of laws called federal Indian laws. But to create those laws, they had to get them from somewhere. Where did they get what they needed to create the laws called federal Indian laws? What document did they rely on to create those rather biased laws? The laws where they dictate everything that happens to an Indian. Where did they get, what gave them that right? It was the doctrine of discovery. We don't need to deal with any other laws. Forget UNDRIPS. Forget ADRIPS. Forget them. The doctrine of discovery will always override all laws because the doctrine of discovery guarantees to the entity that relies on the doctrine of discovery, it guarantees for them that they can do whatever they want to do, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. Why can they do that? Because American Indians are still seen as heathens to be dominated even after they got saved, even after they converted. So from 1492, that's actually, it might have been, it was between 1492 and 1493 that both of the papal bulls, Dum Diversis and I forget the name of the other one. It had a name, but together they make up the doctrine of discovery. From 1492 circa to 2023, every court case, every decision made about Indians, especially the ones where they lost, you always lose even when you win. Why? Because that doctrine of discovery is right there to say, wait a minute, did you just make them win? Okay, you can go back and make them lose now. You just did that so they could feel like you're being fair. Go back and take what you gave them. That's what they've been doing with America. I don't know if people realize that everything they gave us, they've been able to retract somehow when it seemed beneficial. Why? It's because of the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery continues to inform this corporation's legal system that no matter what, you have a right to take what you want from those Indians. It doesn't matter how you get it. You're justified. So from 1492 circa to 2023, when the church officially repudiated the doctrine of discovery, all of those cases that took place, null and void. All the ordinances, the Northwest Ordinance, anything that you thought was benefiting American Indian was window dressing. Because the doctrine of discovery was still in full effect up to March of 2023. When an Indian goes to make their declaration, please, just for a guideline, look at my declaration, which is I read in my opening video on my channel. I also printed the wording of it in the comments section or in the description box. I'm not saying you have to use what I did word for word. You gotta say it the way you want. What am I saying? I think American Indians should get into, although you have a declaration like mine as a guide, I would say make up your own. You got to say what you want. In mine, I said what I want. I will tell you what I suggest, what I would suggest. You make sure you're not tied to the word Indian. You're using the term Indian to get what was taken from you under being called Indian with the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery called us Indians. We should have been called Americans. So in my declaration, I made sure that I retain the right to identify. Don't think that you can use the term Indian to take me off my land, because I may not be using that. It is what was how it is the misnomer that they used to steal from me. So the thing they call Indian was actually property that belongs to me as an American. So I have to take back my property under the misnomer that they used. And I'm telling them that I'm using the term Indian as an identifier, but I retain the right to self-identify. That means you don't know what I'm going to call. I didn't tell them what I'm going to call myself. I said I retain the right to self-identify. But my declaration is claiming everything that belongs to an American Indian. So I would suggest that Indians might want to do something like that. I did say you want to put as much as you know about the tribe you were from. And luckily I was able to get that information because my tribe did maintain initially very good relations with the British at first. But we know with that doctrine of discovery, they never have to stay your friend. There comes a time when they say, you know, Indian, I'm glad that we got to know each other. I understand your ways. Some of them I might even adopt. But your land is mine. And you have to leave now. And it's been real. That's what the doctrine of discovery allows every entity that is not an American Indian. This doctrine of discovery allows every entity to say that at some point in your relationship. So again, what am I saying is, I think American Indians need to extract themselves from the, I want to call it, the tangled web of legalese that can go either this way or the exact opposite way, depending on how the case is argued and how it applies to the current case. Like no two cases are exactly the same. So what that means is, in one case, a statute might apply, but in another case, it might not. It depends on how the lawyer how slick is the lawyer. And who's the lawyer working for, by the way? Indians? No. Corporation? Yes. So this was just a video, I think, to show that our focus really is, that's what got them here, the doctrine of discovery. All the other stuff they just were able to do because of the doctrine of discovery. So what do we have to attack? We don't even have to attack. The church already repudiated the doctrine of discovery. All we have to do is claim that and everything that was taken from us. Unfortunately for the corporation, that means if they're still here, they are supposed to be compensating the Indians of that area. And now what Indians might want to do is maybe start some, if they want to, they can have like a place where you collect the compensation. If you want gold, it'll be gold. If you, whatever you want. If you want, you got to think about what you want, American Indians. And I'm saying fiat is too controlled by your colonizer for you to really, for it to really work for you. I always say, tell them I want credit. Everything your dollars can buy, it's just mine. Maybe I'll have some kind of my ID that, you know, which means that anything I have to pay for is already paid for. American Indians might want to begin to collect what they call rent. If you know the land is yours, and it's really, you don't need land patents for this, American Indians. I'm telling you. The scope of this is bigger than a land patent. A land patent was created in your subjugation. Everything, what I'm trying to get American Indians to see is that everything that was created as a result of the doctrine of discovery has already been voided. So you don't have to pull up any patents or anything like that. All you got to do is show that the doctrine of discovery appeared, and then the colonizer that took my land relied on it. So a patent is it was just window dressing. It was just something the colonizer came up with that looked official, but it was based on conquest. The doctrine of discovery is about conquest. So we don't need to go through all the little intricacies to get our land back. I'm telling you. Know what the doctrine of discovery did, and know what you are owed. All your land. The corporation, it will not be able to tell you that you're not an Indian anymore. Their job, if anything, is to prove that you were a slave from Africa. They might want to try that route. And even with that, they can't be trusted. The reason why you see the technological world working so hard to making programs that help liars lie better, like with the AI that's able to superimpose someone else's face on somebody's body, make it look like they're talking when they're not. This is what the corporation has to resort to. So now they're in a better position to lie. So I don't know. So it would be more about the corporation proving that we're African. It can't. I mean, I think it could attempt to. It'll be a sad, sorry thing, because everything you did to hide our records that's the proof that there are no records to prove that we're African. Because you barely want to cough up the census records. You barely want to show us that. If we were African, you'd want to have all that documentation available, and I mean for free. For free. You wouldn't charge an arm and a leg to have someone do a genealogy. And that's the reason why you charge an arm and a leg. You're hoping that we don't do a genealogy. So this corporation spends more effort, more energy in hiding stuff than it does revealing stuff. That's what lets you know, like, it puts it in the shadow of doubt category. If you're hiding, that means, what are you hiding? You're not hiding that we're African, right? You wouldn't want to do that. That would be not in your best interest. What you're hiding is that we're the American Indians you found here. That's what you're hiding. So it's like, it has to be like fair, like there's something in their legal system where that it says, with fair common sense. How they do it? Within reasonable, it is within reason that a corporation that misclassified you black, of course they would want to create a new narrative to put you in Africa, but the first mistake was calling you black. Right there. The misclassification itself, it shows you what the intent was from the beginning. So really all we have to argue basically is the doctrine of discovery and the Federal Census Bureau's unlawful misclassification of American Indians. And we said in one of the videos how we know that American Indians didn't agree to anything. I'm talking about anything, y'all. Native Americans, that's a different story. I don't know what they agreed to, but I know that they didn't have a right to. That I know. But it doesn't matter because they don't have a say anyway. We know what their line is. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. That's the extent of the laws of Native Americans when it comes to this federal system. They don't have anything. American Indians have the misclassification as proof that something was changed about only us that did not apply to other alleged Indians. So who's the real Indian? Wouldn't you have to get rid of the real heir? The ones who are not heirs, they get to actually take our place, right? And they have to be called Native Americans because there's only one place for American Indians. And even the corporation don't want to get it too confused, right? So the term American Indian is also being quasi-genocided out of the conversation. Okay? So what are we saying? We're saying it should be self-evident that the United States corporation needed to misclassify birthright heirs only into something foreign. It shouldn't have to misclassify Indians into Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? That is oxymoronic. If they're the birthright holders, why do you need to call them Native Americans? Because they're not the birthright holders. The birthright holders, it is within legal reason, logical reason, lawful reason, why you were misclassified to something that takes you off the land and puts you in Africa. That's how American Indians know that they're the real deal. You have to be removed. You have to be removed completely from the land. That's how you know you're a real American. The other thing I want to touch upon is that, and this became eerily to my awareness. I asked myself, why, and I said this before, why couldn't the corporation just leave us alone? Why? We don't have a standing on the land. We're paying more than anybody to live here on our land. Everywhere we go, we're facing discrimination purely based on how we look, nothing else, not the contents of our character or anything like that. And I ask myself, I still don't quite understand why they have it in for us so bad. It's godless how they have it in for. I said, once you strip me of every possible thing that could empower me, how am I a threat? Why do you constantly come for me? I'm just trying to live in the very restrictive confounds of your oppression and discrimination, and fairly enjoy my day. Just get through a day. That's all. Just smile at least once a day. Just sleep and feel. And the funny thing is, y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I'm over dramatizing. Papa gets his rest. Papa gets his rest. That's just one of those things that the ancestors, they have to give that to us because they know what we're dealing with. But I'm just saying, so maybe some of our people, maybe they sometimes say, why do I have to feel so discriminated? Why do I have to feel it, though? They can discriminate against me, and I never even know it. But it seems like somebody wants me to feel it. And Indians, I've grappled with this. A lot of times I feel like I give up, and I don't know why it has to be so hateful, so lethal with the police brutality and all of that. The other day I saw two brother police manhandling a young man who, I guess, I don't know what he did, but just seeing it. And the thing is, you just don't want to get, you know it's wrong, but you just figure it's a form of terrorism. So something happens when you try to figure out, why does it have to be this brutal? Why do I have to feel suffering? Why do I have to have it as a thing in my day-to-day life? And that's when the spirituality conversation, I think, has to happen. This is a spiritual thing, Americans. When you're a sacrifice, the sins of someone else have to be put on you. When you're a sacrificial lamb, so quite literally, American Indians, for the people that you are being sacrificed for, their well-being, it has to be for their well-being to be, there has to be a place where their sins are removed to. And that sacrificial lamb is the American Indian. I just started rewatching the movie Us. And I watched it last night to the point where Red, the main female tether character, played excellently by Lupita Nyong'o. Kudos to that actress. I watched it. I knew I wanted to watch the movie. I've been putting it off. I don't tend to like to rewatch movies that I've already seen because I know what's going to happen, you know. But something was telling me to watch this. And I realized I had completely forgotten the line in the movie where the tether, after her and the duplicate family break into the main character's home, when they finally start talking to the people whose home they broke into, the father character asks Red, the female character of the enemy character, you might say. I forgot that when he asked her, "Who are you people?" the last thing you expected this basically monster of a woman to say, and it hit me. It hit me again. She said, "We're Americans. We're Americans." The movie, I had forgotten that it has a subtext about American Indians. First of all, the character, Lupito is as dark as a dark complexion brother or sister could be, right? She says, it's her character that says, "We're American. We're Americans." What I want to say is, in this movie, they kind of show you how a replacement and the sacrifice, what the relationship is. Red was the sacrifice for the people that took her place on Earth. So how she described it was, and if you get that movie, please do watch it again with the eyes of, your Indian eyes on. She says, what do they call the people on Earth? I think they were both tethered to each other, but one was the real one and one was the replacement. But the way Red described it, before she announced that she's American, she said, "Once upon a time there was a girl." And then she goes into this rant about when the girl was eating cake, she was eating like raw rabbit meat. What I'm trying to show you, it's even being displayed in a film like Us. So where one is enjoying good things and happy and it tastes good, the tether is experiencing something negative. It's positive for the real person. In the case of the Indians, it's every immigrant that comes to America, they're experiencing the good. But we Americans, we tend to be experiencing just the opposite. They go into a store and they're welcome. "How can I help you today?" We go into a store and all the attitude starts flying. The suspicion. You just want to leave. This was displayed in the movie. What I'm trying to say, y'all, is that's the life of a sacrifice. American Indians are being sacrificed so that the immigrants that come here can live a good, what they call American dream. For American Indians, it's a nightmare. And the sad part is, I hope this hits you where it needs to hit you, American Indian. This is happening to your children. When you look at your baby boy, your baby girl today or tonight, you remember what Heru just told you about what's in store for them. Now, we're peaceful American Indians. We don't advocate violence against immigrants, not at all. We just want our proper due. And it's time. It is actually our time. There is no limit. I just have to say this, y'all. American Indians are not limited to a jubilee to take back what belongs. Nobody is. If it's yours, it's yours. Whether it's in this year, the next year, the year after that, up until eternity. If it was yours, it's always yours. Please do not believe that you have a time limit on taking back what's yours. That's something that the colonizer has put in our psyche. We don't have. I'm trying to say we don't go by colonizer rules. Why should we give you that respect when you've never respected us? Respecting their laws is an opening to be tricked by their laws. That's why you don't go by their laws. You have a right to take back what's yours. Point blank, period. There ain't no law against that, y'all. So what I'm trying to say is we couldn't, even if we were to lay back and say, colonizer, just take whatever you want, just leave me alone. It's not possible, y'all. They cannot leave the sacrifice alone. In order for the replacement to have a happy energy of happiness and to come to America and actually feel like there's an opportunity here. The opportunity has to be taken from an American Indian. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those who hear my voice and really hear me. This is spiritual, y'all. And you've been trained with a sacrifice type of spirituality. Why do you think that was? I always have to say, do the other Judeo-Christian Islamic religions, do they need like a sacrificial lamb to get to God? No, they have a bloodline, right? But the reason why American Indians are given a sacrifice system is to train you to be a sacrifice. To get you all in the energy of a sacrifice situation. That's why what I advocate is you got to let the religion go. You got to. If you're not Hebrew, so there's no reason for you to go buy a Hebrew book. If you're not Islamic, and we're not, there's no need for you to go buy an Islamic book. That's for people in Asia. That's their religion. The Moors gave it to them. But unfortunately, it was at the cost of us. I wish the Moors gave them something that could be theirs. And that they wouldn't have to fight each other as a Semitic people. The things that the Moors give you is going to put you in a fight. Do American Indians understand that? It tells you about the deity that they're worshiping, if I have to spell it out. Chaos. War. What's the other one? A god of war, god of chaos, and actually destruction would be one of the things. Yeah. It's also like a thunder type of deity. That's what it is. So the point I'm trying to make is that's why they can't leave us alone, because they need to, it's a transfer of energy. It's a replacement energy. So for there to be a positive energy available to the immigrants, the men and women of the land the transfer has to be taken from them. So I sacrifice you so that this tether can take your place. And unfortunately, we can't leave you alone. You're a living sacrifice, but when we get through with you, you'll be dead spiritually, and that will lead to your physical death. And we hope to have this last for generations. That's why I say you gotta leave the spiritual system of colonizer alone. It was never meant to really serve you. It's serving more the people that they would like to transfer your birthright to. You know, that's the whole point. That's why it was so important to get you involved in the religion. Now, again, at this point, almost, like, I would say more than 90% of the Americas, including Canada, South America, the Caribbean, I would say, oh my God, it has to be near 100% Christian or one of the Judeo-Christian faiths. Is the treatment any better? Once you became under the quote-unquote forgiveness or grace or whatever, then how come you're still being discriminated against? I thought that we were condemned because we were heathen. As I always say, what's the excuse now that 99.9999999% of everything in the Americas is either Christian, Hebrew, or Islamic? So your salvation was a thing that, again, the other two Judeo-Christian faiths do not need a savior. Why do you need one, Christian? Oh, because you're a sinner? Before that Bible was brought to you, how were you going to know of the deities in that Bible? So let's say it's a Monday. You're going about your daily routine. Your spiritual system is whatever it is. Tuesday, Columbus knocks on your door, Christopher Columbus, and he says, you've been found guilty of not worshiping the deity in this book. And first of all, you say, what book? What book is that? What language is that? What I'm trying to get at, how could you be a sinner when you never even knew the book or the deity? Are you really a sinner? No, you're not. You're being called that. But fast forward, now you're a Christian. They took your land when they knocked on your door and said you're a heathen. They made you study that book, and they made you adopt its savior, or whichever one of the three monotheistic, let's say that again. 3 monotheistic deity. That's what the Moors do, y'all. We're not talking about anything but black Moors that created this religion. What did they tell us in the book of Yaqub, Father of Mankind? In the chapter entitled How the Black Man Rules, they tell us that he rules by using the books he wrote, this black man who wrote the Bible and the Quran. Who? A black man. So when we talk about the Judeo-Christian faith, who are we talking about, American Indians? We're talking about our own tether, the ones who call themselves black and then want us to call ourselves black. We're talking about those men, the ones who said that they wrote the Bible and the Quran. That's a big confession right there. That's a big bowl of responsibility That's a big bowl of responsibility right there. So when an Indian like myself is talking about the Judeo-Christian Islamic faith, who are we talking to, American Indians? We're talking about black men, right? The priesthood. They started out black, right? Of course they did. Who's the oldest people on earth? Those who they're calling black, right? Okay, so who are we directing all of this to? It's not white. Please don't think I'm sitting here talking about white people. It's the farthest thing from the truth. I'm talking about the brothers that